Welcome to the Cherie Mercado podcast. Meron na naman tayong isang kakausapin na Pinay ngayon, and I'm very happy to have her here on the Filipino TV studios, si Miss Diona Joyce.
Hi.
Also known as Tita Flips.
Hello.
Hi, Tita Flips.
Hello.
What do you want your friends to call you? What do you prefer? Diona?
Diona
Or
for the
Tita
friends. But most of the time, pag kasi di ba yung mga ibang tao na basta Tita Flips.
Oo.
Ganun
Ang ganda
lang.
rin ng it rolls on the tongue really
Tita
nicely.
Flips.
Kilala ka na Filipino community as Tita Flips.
Si Tita Flips. But
Oo.
not Diona Joyce.
Oo, si Tita Flips. Saan ba nagsimula yung Tita Flips kung Diona Joyce ang name mo?
Well, kasi yung nag-start ako into the food industry, catering, right? So, wala pa naman ng store, wala pang kanto nun. So, before, sabi ko, what's the name? Parang ano yung concept? Ano yung branding? So, parang so I was like, 30s at that time. So, ayoko naman na parang, alam mo yung Aunt Jemima or Mama Sita, di ba, Lola.
Hindi bagay
Kasi
pa ang
hindi
Lola.
naman ako ganun katanda, right? So, at saka hindi naman ganun kabata. So, what's in the middle? So, Tita. And then, most of the time, di ba tayo, mga Filipino, we don't call everybody, especially a female. Pag hindi natin kilala, hindi naman, it's either ate or tita ang tawag natin, right? So, parang generic, just as, as a sign of respect, right? So, tita would be the best bet. So, and then I said, okay, tita, something. So, that's who's behind it, right? So, tita. And then, so what's the name, right? So, flip. So, at that time, parang, what's the word for Filipino? Right? So, the North American term is flip.
Flip.
Right? So, she's
Hindi
a
ko
flip,
rin
you're
na-get
a
yan
flip.
dati. My flips. I was like,
I know, right?
Kasi sometimes I thought before, parang flip,
Sira
Hindi ba
ulo.
ako sira ulo? Bakit
Right?
flip?
Oo. So I always get that. They always nagko-comment, why is it you're putting Filipino name into some kind of derogatory daw or something, pinapababa ko. Sabi ko, ang sagot ko lang naman, well, you don't know me. You don't know Tita Flips, and maybe you should do your research before commenting or something like what I'm doing. So it's something at the time again, so flip again, so to make, alam mo yun, i-flip mo siya. So parang sort of I'm doing the Filipino cuisine into a 360-degree turn.
because you're twisting it and you're putting
Exactly.
a lot of different twists nga on the...
Yeah, at that time. Kasi di ba wala pang especially street food. Wala naman, it's never heard of, right?
Yes,
So, wala
because
siya.
Tita Flips nga has this restaurant called Kanto that now has 2 branches.
Yes.
2 lang ba?
Two
Baka
lang.
24 na.
Wala pa.
So, she has 2 branches and she started with catering. Kailan nagsimula ang catering? Tapos kailan nagsimula ang kanto?
We started maybe around 2010. So I was in and out, not in and out, half, parang part-time, side hustle at the same time, right? Yung catering. And then I saw yung space dun sa Market 707, which is the original Kanto, yung parang maliit siya na store. So it started. So, ayoko naman tawagin siya na Tita Flips din. So, parang sabi ko, what's the name? What's the concept behind this, little container? So, parang sa Philippines kasi, diba, I miss those mga sari-sari store, yung mga corner stores, anything kasi there's no street food in Toronto. The thing that you can see, the most street food at that time is hot dog carts. Yun lang. Boring.
Diba? Samantalang sa atin, no?
It's
Part of the culture. It's so
part of the
colorful and it's always a surprise what you're gonna get there.
Right? So every kanto, there's always a store. There's always a corner store na pwede kang bumili.
So meron
may
ganun
pagkain.
siyang fun, playful.
Exactly.
and
So sabi ko,
exciting
and then,
component.
Yeah. So that's the first shipping container market as well in Toronto. So parang so
yung area na yun. Yung pala ang first.
Yes, that's the first shipping container market. Kasi parang, siya, yung mga, parang shipping container na ni-refurbish into stalls, right?
And marami kayong restaurants doon, di ba?
Yeah,
Okay.
so mga different cuisines then, different, nationalities.
Before that, were you working as, or have you always been an entrepreneur?
I was an insurance broker. So I deal with, like it's more an
So marunong
office.
ka na talaga sa pera. I mean, part of the
Yes,
business,
yes,
of course.
but it's more for clients, kasi parang group benefits, insurance,
Mhm.
mga like more on the financial side, right? So it's like it's an office, like a desk job.
Mhm.
And
Was it difficult to move from a desk job to like what was the decision making process like? I'm
I just love
gonna
it. I just love
start my
cooking.
own business.
Yeah, because parang alam mo yon, yung tipong I love what I was doing as a broker, like don't get me wrong, I love interacting with people, like clients and everything, right? But it's something like, cooking, like if you put me there like even like 24 hours on my feet or something, like I'm still good. I'm
Happy
still
ka
happy.
magluto
I look
talaga, no?
forward, to the next dish and to the cooking and to the creating side of it. So I guess that's my passion, like it's something like more, like I don't know, pag naluto ka, it's something
Oo.
like, like
Is it in the cooking more? Is the fulfillment coming more when you're cooking it and you love the process, or when people taste it and
it's
they
all
love it?
in it's
Kasama,
yeah,
pareho.
it's all like in one package,
But iba yung kasi yung may passion ka, alam mo ito yung hilig mo. Ang game changer dyan, o yung malaking factor dyan, yung pag talagang you've done the step, sinama mo na yung kabilang paa na, o sige, dito na ako. I'm
Yes.
doing this full time.
Yes.
How did that happen? Was it an easy
It was a leap
transition?
of faith.
Oh, okay. Ano rin, no?
Kasi-
Risk din talaga.
Oh yeah, it was
Mm-mm.
very risky at the same time because especially like, like imagine wala namang Filipino, like Filipino restaurants is available, right? But
Mm.
mostly like, like it's
Diba?
just like towards like to the Filipino community,
Oo,
yun lang.
oo.
Kasi parang alam mo yun, everything was just like more of like a cafeteria style, like turo-turo. So,
Oo,
Pilipino
oo.
lang talaga. Syempre, masaya tayo doon kasi maraming ulam or
Oo.
something. But if going to the mainstream, not a lot of people, like especially non-Filipinos, don't know about, like Filipino cuisine. What is it, And of course, I love Filipino food. I grew up with Filipino food. I want you to know what Filipino food it's, bakit, why, like the Vietnamese, Japanese, Chinese, people know about them. Like, why is it that you don't know about Filipino food? Like that's in just my mind, right?
So that was part of the reason why you opened the restaurant, to
Yes.
introduce Filipino food, street
Oh, yeah.
food first to the
Yes.
mainstream
Yes.
culinary
Yeah.
group.
Yeah, kasi on my catering, kasi everything, right? So mostly like lahat ng mga ulam and everything, right? But then specifically for the street food, kasi I mean, at the venue, at that time, like it's like the opportunity at that moment, So parang, okay, this is a good, like venue
Mhm.
to promote Filipino food to the mainstream.
Mhm.
And to know, like, for example, like, okay, kasi kahit ano siya, street food siya, but we make it in a way like, parang freshly cooked. Doon yun din luluto. Kaya, it was at that time like, oh, do we have to wait? Mag-aantay kami. Mga Pilipino. Kasi, asan yung ulam nyo? Wala po kaming ulam.
Kasi expected nila, nakalagay na dyan, karinderya
Oo,
style.
Karinderya
Okay.
style. So, but then we cook, like, I push what tapsilog is. Like, alam mo yun, but then fresh, bagong luto, and, like, yung mga ganong dishes. And
So
people
you're partly
appreciate.
the reason why a lot of non-Filipinos know about
Yes.
Filipino food here in Toronto.
In a way, yes. One dish
Oo.
at a time.
One dish at a time, di ba?
One dish at a time.
How did you move to, how old were you when you moved to Canada?
Oh my God. 24, 25, something
You
like
were
that.
24, 25 years
yeah,
old.
yeah.
So malaking part din ng life mo was in the Philippines.
Oh, yes.
You
yes.
studied there, you grew
yes,
up there.
Yes.
How was that transition like? Why did you move here?
By accident.
Ano ang
Kasi-
Canada story ni Tita Flips?
Oh my God, Canada story. I guess I was meant to be in Canada, siguro. I never planned for it or something. Like some people would say, like at the time, like it was like what, 2000s, right?
Mm.
So parang alam mo yun, you have to apply. And then I had a friend. So long and short, sinamahan ko lang yung friend ko kasi sabi niya, pwede ba makisakay sa'yo? And I was like, I was doing I was a medical rep, like I was doing working at pharmaceutical, right? Pwede ba makasabay? Saan ka pupunta? Sa Rojas Boulevard. Okay, sabay ka sa akin. Daan kita. Tapos, sabi, saan ka ba pupunta? Sabi niya, kukunin ko yung aking visa. But it's like, where are you going? Sabi, I'm going to Canada. So, ano meron dun? Kasi,
Sino yung pupunta? Yung kaibigan
yung
mo?
kaibigan ko.
Okay.
Oo, nakisabay lang siya sa akin. And then,
Okay.
while I was waiting for her, kasi wala namang ginawa, sumama lang ako sa kanya doon sa reception, nag-aantay ako doon sa kanya para pumasok siya doon sa kanya. Parang agency pala yon, hindi ko alam. So, yung nagpapaalis ng mga for Canada. So, nag-apply siya, parang siyang PR na siya, yung parang, kasi maganda yung trabaho niya. She was a veterinarian before, right? So, she got approved, right? So, anyway, while I was waiting, eto naman, syempre, yung mga tao, nag-interview hindi naman ikaw, ano meron? Wala. So, driver lang ako. Sabi ko gano'n. So, why don't you apply? Sabi ko, saan? Sabi, Canada. Ano meron doon? Sabi, bakit? Sabi ko gano'n. Sabi ko, saan yun? Sabi ko bang gano'n kasi alam ko na gano'n, pero hindi ko, kasi
it wasn't in your radar.
No,
you weren't considering it.
Yeah, like Canada.
It's funny how life works, no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tapos sabi nga sa akin, no, sabi nga, kasi malapit lang ba sa US yun? Sabi ko, kasi ang aking mga pinsan and everything, like, it's more in US. Nobody's in Canada. Nobody's in, like, anywhere in Canada, right? So anyway, sabi, yeah, ano lang yun, malapit sa New York, kung punta kang Toronto. Talaga? Sabi ko, okay. Sabi niya, syempre tinanong ako and everything, sabi niya, fill upan mo nga itong prelim, parang preliminary questionnaire, whatever. So, uy, ma'am, available, qualified ka? Sabi ko, talaga? Bakit? Sabi nga, hindi, subukan mo lang, wala namang bayad eh. Sabi nga, oo, talaga? Sabi, oo, pag nakakuha ka lang ng visa or something, pag na-approve ka lang, saka ka lang magbabayad ng agency fee. Sabi, magkano ba? Hindi naman kamahalan. So, that was like, it was so okay, fine. Sabi nga, ano ba mga paperwork? So, sabi, meron ka naman lahat niyan. So, ganun. So, anyways, okay, fine. It was just like for fun for me, right? Like, whatever, like, pero hindi ko pa rin, let's see. 4 weeks later, kasi sabi, okay, submit. 4 weeks later, wala daw ako for interview. But anyways, so after like maybe like 3-4 months, I got a letter na I was approved daw. I was like, okay.
As a worker?
No,
as a visitor?
permanent resident.
As PR already?
PR already.
Oh,
yes,
wow.
Like PR
Okay.
talaga, like permanent resident. So probably like from the beginning to end, it took me only like 8 months. Like from the moment na nandun ako, I was sitting on that lobby to the moment na nakarating ako ng Toronto. Kasi tinanong pa nga nila, 8 months. Like lahat.
Baka marami
ko pa yun.
nang magsulat sa'yo ngayon. Tita Flips, how did you do that? How do we become a PR in 8 months? May ganun pa ba ngayon? Wala na yata.
Wala na yata. Oo, swerte lang talaga.
Talagang meant to be in Canada si Tita Flips.
So sabi ko, tinanong pa nga nila ako, saan ka pupunta sa kanan? Hindi ko alam. Hindi ko alam. Wala namang kakilala doon. Wala namang kamag-anak.
That's a courageous move.
Yes. So ngayon, sabi nila, saan ba yung sabi ko, ano ba yung pinaka-miss city ng Canada? Toronto. O sige, book mo na lang ako sa Toronto. Ganun lang.
Oh, wow.
So yun.
But that time, what was what were you doing in the Philippines? You had a job?
Yes.
Were you living alone? You were living with your parents?
I live in Manila, tapos umuwi lang ako every weekend sa Cabanatuan.
Oh,
and then, but then, like.
So you had a good job?
Oh, yeah. It was a very
At
good
20s, you had a love life. You had a boyfriend then?
Everything.
Everything. The works.
I was meant to be married. Everything.
Talaga? Iniwanan mo?
Oh, yes. I guess sabi ko, okay, pag kami, di ba, susunod ka or whatever, right?
I love the attitude.
Sabi ko, I guess it's something like, it's very, how do I say this? Nakakatakot. But it's something like very exciting
din, no?
Right?
And ganyan ka ba talaga? You're a risky person.
I guess so.
Anong principle mo sa buhay? Parang try everything? Or anong parang...
Yeah, like if I put myself or if I put my mind into something, I guess if I really want to do it, like I'm not gonna stop until I get it. Right? Or something,
usually yung
right?
Mga I interview a lot of successful people na I realize are some people describe them as stubborn, matigas ang ulo.
Yes, I think I'm like that.
Oo, close-minded. May ganun pa mga descriptions sa mga tao. But then it's probably that, no, that you don't have that you have that blinders on.
Yeah.
That you're very focused on.
I guess
on your
so,
path.
right?
But, okay, and then so you left your boyfriend of how many months or years?
Maybe like 5 years.
Talaga.
Yeah,
Baka
oo.
hindi meant to be kasi hindi pa kayo nagpapakasal after 5
Yeah,
years.
supposed to be. And then, like, supposed to be, okay, sabi ko, punta lang ako dun, tapos kukunin kita or whatever. Hindi naman siya sumunod or
Pwede
something.
mauna
Whatever.
ako.
Yeah, oo,
Okay.
ganon,
Okay,
right?
next
So,
step. Nasa Canada
anyways.
ka na. Ano nangyari? You went here, you don't have any relatives.
No. So, ang ano is, the friend, yung sinamahan ko, siya yung nandito.
Okay.
Right? So, siya yung sumundo sa akin sa airport. Actually, hindi pa kami nag-usap kasi parang email lang yon. And then, it's very tragic kasi ang nangyari sa kanya, she was just here 3 months in Toronto. Nakarating siya, landed siya, right? And then she got cancer. Nagka-cancer siya. So, talagang kawawang-kawawa. Siya talagang nagki-chemotherapy. Swerte na rin at the same time kasi di ba libre
dito na siya. Kung
dito
nasa
siya,
Pilipinas, ubos siya.
right? So, at the same, so ngayon, ang nangyayari, so nag-i-email lang kami, uy, sabi ko, na-approve ako. Sabi ko gano'n, kasalanan mo. But then, sabi ko, I don't know, hope you feel okay. Kasi parato siyang nasa hospital noon. Wala din siyang, para lang siyang may parang boyfriend, pero American. So, it's just like on and off to Toronto and US, right?
Oh, okay.
So, at least meron siyang someone, right?
Yeah.
So, but then, so, sabi ko, so, nagre-reply siya. I said, oh, I'm okay. But then, chemo, and medyo mahirap and everything. But she's very thankful. Pasalamat din siya sa Diyos. Kasi, libre nga lahat ng mga treatment niya and everything, right? So, eto na, flight na. Sabi ko, ito palang flight ko, ganitong oras, ang dating ko, hindi ko alam if you get this on time, so whatever. Like, so sumakay ko
so
ng
you
plane.
don't even know
I
if
don't
you're
even
gonna
know.
get picked up.
I know, seriously, like,
Nakakatuwa.
I don't even know kasi I know that was a time na meron siya mga chemotherapy and everything. So, I'm not sure. Pagdating ko sa airport, whether nandun siya or wala siya, it's so,
Go.
I guess, sabi ko, ano kaya ang saan ako pupunta? Hindi ko alam.
Wala ka pang titiran.
Wala.
Hindi mo pa alam.
So, sabi ko, siguro I'm just gonna get into like a hotel. Wala pang Airbnb that time, di ba? Na ngayon, madali na lang di ba? So, sabi ko, bahala na. Sabi ko, so yun lang. Pero, thankfully, nandun siya. Kasi ano lang yun, sinundo niya ako, galing pala siyang hospital, napasama na siya ng friend niya. Tapos kinupkup niya ako, pero hindi kami pwedeng hindi ako pwedeng tumira sa kanya. Actually, kailangan din niyang lumipat kasi pinapaalis din siya noon sa kanyang landlord at the time. And then, sabi ko, oh my God, ano bang pinasukan ko? Kasi pagdating na, ano pa naman yun? Parang summer? So, hindi pa ganun kalamig, pero malamig. Sabi, ang lamig pala dito. Sabi ko gano'n.
Wala pang winter yun. Okay.
Wala pang winter. So, anyways, so ang nangyari, long and short, siya yung may sakit, wala siya trabaho and everything. So, I have to find an apartment. So, after like probably like 3 days, nakahanap ako ng apartment. So, lumipat ako. And then, kasi siya, kailangan din niya umalis. So, in turn, ako yung kumupkup sa kanya. Siya yung sumama sa akin. Instead na ako yung kupkup kanya. So, eto na kamo. Kaya parang accelerated ako in a way of learning about Toronto and everything. Kasi parang, I have to take care of this someone who's sick, right? So, I have to bring her to the hospital. Tinutulungan ko siya. Kasi parang, nanghihina talaga siya. Wala yung asawa niya nasa military, right?
Okay.
So anyways, so siya lang talaga dito sa Toronto. So kahit magsaing man lang or something, wala sa kanya. So talagang, alam mo yung pag-chemotherapy, di ba, nanghihina ka and everything, you can't do anything.
So this is something you didn't sign up for.
Yes! Sabi ko, ano ba nangyayari? But anyway, so like in a way, I was just like, I guess, iniisip ko rin na, thank God it's not me.
Yeah,
right? I'm able to help her.
Yeah, you're in the
way.
position to help.
Exactly. Like even if I don't know. So 3 days pa lang yata, I need to find a job kasi nga kailangan ko magbayad ng apartment. O, di ba? Yung syempre,
nakahanap ka agad.
Meron naman, may nakita ka agad ako. Like, so, yung alam mo yun, somewhere in St. Clair and everything, right? So, nakahanap na always, like, it's been very, very, I guess, lucky, if you can say that, right? Now, like everything just works in your favor, although it's very challenging, right?
So, I really believe luck falls into those who work very hard.
Yeah, and then of course, like, like dasal
There's
lang.
more to luck.
Diba? So, parang sabi ko, Lord, ano bang ginawa ko? Ikaw, anong nangyayari?
Were you one of those who started from the bottom? Like, you got odd jobs?
Oh, yeah. Like, I just have to, like, whatever, because although I came like as a PR, right? Kasi, like, permanent resident, but then you don't have, like, social insurance and whatever, right? Yeah, so, technically, you can't do the work. So, I walk in, ano bang pinakamadaling trabaho daw? McDonald's. So, I went to McDonald's. Sabi ko, you have to give me a job right now. Sabi, anything. So, do you have I have your social insurance. I'm a permanent resident. But then, I need a job right now. I need to pay my apartment and stuff, right? So, kasi lahat ng pera na, like, alam mo yung show money and everything, syempre, papadala mo balik sa Pilipinas kasi para sa parents ko and everything, right? So,
nag-McDonald's ka, what were the other odd jobs that you did?
McDonald's, tapos nag-country style, another.
Another
kasi yun ang
cafe.
pinakamabilis di ba? Like,
yes, mabilis
hiring.
kayo
So,
hire.
like, just anything, like, whatever, right? So, first time, like, oh my God, bakit ba ako pumunta sa Canada? Bakit ba ako dito ganda-ganda na trabaho ko? Like, at first, like, it was like awakening moment, like, tipong umiyak talaga ako kasi sabi ko, ano ba pinagpalit ko and everything, right? But then, in a way, like, calculate lang, ano ba yung $1 to? Di ba? May isip mo, ay, ganito lang trabaho ko. Di ba? So, parang, in a way, it's like, okay, that's...
How did you finally get to a job that was more stable, yung insurance job mo?
So, I was at the same time, kasi parang, anong tawag dito, so I did like telemarketing. So like, like sa call center. And then they wanted somebody na merong license kasi sabi ko, magkano ba yan? Dati is like $18 per hour for if you have a license. Sabi ko, how do you get a license? Sabi ko, kasi I want a job. Kasi diba? So parang ganun lang. Tipong,
so you worked for a license?
Yeah. So I have to study and to get the license, like life insurance, like license, right? So in order to get that job, and then para since licensed na ako, so I got into like other brokerages, and then that's some more parang sort of marketing din kasi parang anong tawag dito, selling life insurance at the same time or group benefits, right? But
paano
then,
yung mga like your parents in the Philippines, what were they saying? Umuwi ka na dito, or your boyfriend? Did they make you go back home?
Yeah,
or?
ang gusto naman nila kasi pumunta din dito. Kailan mo kami kukunin?
Yung pala yung tanong.
Hindi, wag kang umuwi. Kailan mo kami kukunin? O, di ba? Yung tipong ganon.
Did you get them? Did you get your parents?
Yeah, so it was sort of like, that's like my goal, my end goal, right? So it was like the driving force. It's like one of those
that's what made you strong.
Yeah, so I guess so, right? So it's something like, you kasi pag wala nga akong anak or something, right? Like, pero you have your parents, you have sisters, nephews, and whatever, your families, right?
Ilan bang siblings? Pang
Just
ilan
one.
ka? You have one,
Yeah.
lang, sister or brother?
One sister.
Younger?
Younger.
Okay.
Pero 1 year younger lang. And then at the same time, yung parents ko and syempre umaasa
Nadala mo sila dito?
So,
how many years after you settled?
So that was maybe like after 7-8 years.
After 7-8 years. So
Yeah.
nandito na sila ngayon?
Nandito na sila.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you met your husband here?
Yes.
What's the love story?
Okay.
Where did you meet him? He's not Filipino,
No,
diba?
he's not Filipino. So he was a friend of my friend. So yung friend ko is the girl. Yung best friend naman niya is yung guy, and they got married, right? So yung friend ko na girl, and then sila. So I was like the bridesmaid, and he was one of the best mans, So sort of like introduced and everything. So that's how it started, So that was
wedding.
like, So
you were working in the insurance?
Yeah, I was working in insurance. It's a group benefits consultant,
Okay.
right? So I was working like as
okay.
in brokerage too. Siguro mga 10 years then.
What made you decide na ito yung papakasalan ko?
I guess the same line. I was like a little bit like 30-something now.
Ano nangyari dun sa boyfriend sa Philippines?
Wala na.
Shortly after? Or hindi
Yeah.
nag-working long
Yeah,
distance
no,
kasi
no,
hirap?
Oo,
Ano
hirap.
nangyari sa baka i-petition mo siya?
Wala na rin. Kasi siguro, ayan.
You fell apart?
Yeah,
You
it's
grew
I guess it
apart.
wasn't like meant to be, right? It wasn't meant to be in the first place. So, hindi talaga. Wala lang.
Oo.
So,
Tapos nagka-boyfriend ka pang iba here in Toronto before you married Mr. Joyce?
marami. O, diba? Para naman masaya. O, joke.
Parang ang saya ng buhay talaga ni Tita Flips, no? Oo
Oh,
nga.
diba? Just live in the moment,
Yeah.
right? So, like I just like see whatever like, opportunity, the people you meet, like it's always like you always learn things along the way, right? So that's the beauty about it, so
Mhm. So by the time,
makulay.
makulay ang buhay. So
Oo.
about, so you dated and then
Yes.
you met. Ang ano mo talaga, did you date Filipinos before you married
Maybe
your
one.
husband? Pero mostly yung ibang lahi.
Oo, kasi sabi ko nga, ano nangyayari sa mga Filipino, especially dito sa Toronto, yung mga matitino, it's either may asawa na sila
Oo.
or bakla. Di ba?
As
Like,
with everywhere.
ano,
Yan din yata ang kwento sa Pilipinas.
right? It's either
Okay.
they're taken or they're gay, right?
Ah.
So, but then, and then kung na yung natitira, hindi mo naman type. O, di ba?
Okay.
So, wala. And then, I mean, I wasn't really looking. It depends, right? So, it just so happened he's a white guy. So,
Oo.
and yeah, like, so we like, same wavelength, same, I guess.
Importante yun, no?
Oo.
Same wavelength. Sabi nga, one wise person told me before, kasi meron pa dati nung bata ako, may nagsasabi na parang, you have to be different para exciting, maganda yung dynamics. When
Oo.
you're opposites, you learn more about
You know,
each other, you balance each other. Kind of logically makes sense, but when you really get into relationships, then you realize, when you get married, there's already a lot of challenges
Oh, yes.
of being married. So might as well start out with the same, at least same set of values.
Yes, same
Diba?
set of values. And then there are things like you can't really have everything, whatever you look for in a person. That would be like OA na talaga yon, di ba? Like
May
everything, like,
checklist ka, no?
yeah, 100 points or something.
Oo.
I don't think that's gonna happen. Like
Oo.
really the perfect. I don't believe that.
Mhm.
Walang perfect.
Oo.
I guess you just have to settle on the things what are the things that, like are the must and the
Yung
things
mga
that you can't live.
non-negotiable sa'yo.
Non-negotiable and
Oo.
like, pwede na. Yung okay na,
Oo, kasi
carry na yun.
as if
Tipong
naman
ganun.
perfect ka rin, di ba?
Exactly. Hindi naman ako perfect.
Ikaw ba 100%
di ba?
din sa checklist?
Oo.
Wala naman talagang perfect. Okay, so
Right?
what are the things that you really liked about him? Ano yung mga non-negotiables mo na nasa kanya?
Non-negotiable is, oh my goodness. Okay, so I think I had in my list na yung always like believe in a higher being. Like,
he doesn't have to be Catholic.
exactly. He's not Catholic, right? But in a way, like, like you always believe that there is some, divine somebody. Like you don't have to be like religious or something. I don't not because I'm not, like but then, there's a sense of, like may konsensya. Oh, di ba? May morals. Di ba? Yung
Yeah.
ganon. Yun ang kasi parang, like, di ba? Like, there's people like who don't believe in God or something, right? Like, I mean, he's not very religious. He's not religious at all or something. Like, he doesn't even like, go to church or anything. But then also like, okay, if you want to get married or you want to marry me, I need to be married in a Catholic church.
So
he's
kahit
not
hindi ka
Catholic.
Catholic.
So
we're
yun.
gonna have a Catholic wedding.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I want my children, if ever we're gonna have children, like raised in a way, when there is God, right? And they're like in a Catholic.
You
know?
talked to him about this?
Oh yeah,
before?
like that's like a top 3.
Oo.
Like,
Ang
in a
galing
way-
naman, because a lot of people get married and then they don't talk about these things.
Yes.
And then when it happens, doon na
Yes.
tayo magkaka-conflict.
Exactly.
Diba? So
right.
meron din palang mga, kasi when you're in love and you're, you're seeing all hearts and roses,
I
these
know,
things you don't want to
right?
talk about, but
Yeah.
it,
So you just have to decide, right? I guess yung sinasabi ko, like, you just those are like the most important things. Get it out.
get it out para
Yeah,
alam mo kung
make it
agree siya
clear.
o hindi,
Yeah.
diba?
Kasi kung hindi, we're like wasting each other's time. That's
Exactly.
it. Like,
Oo.
ganun lang ako.
I love it.
Right? So,
That's why I
parang-
love Tita Flips.
So parang, alam mo
Daming-
yun, just get it over. What are the things? And then the others, if you can live with that, fine.
Oo, the
like-
others, kung ano ka man, malikot ka man matulog, nagigilit
Exactly.
ka man, or
Oo.
do you raise the toilet seat, or do you
Yeah,
put it
exactly,
down?
right?
Does it-
Guys,
kasi may iba, baka non-negotiable ng iba yon.
Exactly.
For me, I'm not gonna marry you if you don't put
Exactly.
put back the lid of the toilet seat, then kanya-kanyang non-negotiable,
Okay,
diba?
hindi kanya-kanya yun right? So,
Oh,
what are
okay.
those things, And then,
So how long are you married na?
we're married 12 years.
12 years.
Yes.
And you
so,
have 2 beautiful girls.
Yes.
How old are they?
9 is the oldest one, and then 5 is the
9 and
second.
5. So,
9.
nung pinanganak yung eldest mo, you already had Kanto?
Yes.
Did you already have Kanto?
Yes,
Oh, nice.
I have Kanto. I think I'm on my going to second year.
Mhm.
So most of the people like who started like like who saw me like doing that, like they know me, like how are the kids? Oh my God, they're big now, right?
Because they see them there.
Yeah, I see them pregnant, right? So ganon.
May epekto daw ang pag nakikita ng bata yung nagnenegosyo, yung nandun siya sa restaurant, ganyan, iba yung introduction niya into money, into business, into even welcoming people. Ganyan.
Yes.
Do you envision them to be entrepreneurs as well?
I don't know.
You don't really parang...
No, I don't
It's not really your dream for them.
No, like it's like, kailangan ikaw sundan or something. I don't know. Like, I can't, it's up to them, right? Kung ano yung passion nila, kung gusto nila, whatever, like I will support it, right? But then I'm not gonna say like, kailangan mong ikaw magluto or something, or you'll be the next Tita Flips or something. Like, if they like it, fine. If they don't, like, there's nothing I can do, right? Because it's
What
their
are the
life.
biggest challenges of having a restaurant here
Everything.
in Toronto? Everything from the start to the end.
Yes, staffing, supplies, people, customers, clients, yeah.
But you love it.
I love it.
Despite those things.
It's part of it, like it's part of it. Even like kahit naman siguro in whatever you are, like whatever industry, it's always the same thing. You have to deal with people, like if you have a business, same thing, right? Like it's something like, if I'm doing it, might as well the thing that I'm gonna love. Because if I have to deal with the shit, right?
Kasi kung sasakit lang ang ulo mo,
exactly, right?
Might as well be
hopefully,
something you're
passionate
about.
Yeah, so that's why I always say, like, if you want to deal with it, just do the right thing at the beginning, or don't do it at all, right? So.
But are you still learning new things
of course.
every day with your business?
Always. There's always new things. And there's always like, everything. Every day is learning, right? So, yeah. That's why it's very exciting.
Ilang years na ang business mo, ang Kanto? Again?
Kanto is like since 2012. So maybe like 10 years na. 10 years
10
na siya.
years
Yeah.
na. Wow,
Kanto,
congratulations.
Yeah,
But it's hard because, well, sa bagay, pag holiday, sarado. But like, how is your life outside the restaurant? What do you do for fun?
With family, whatever the kids, of course, every single thing, every single, waking moment with the kids, so
especially at that age.
Yeah, you have to do like, like everything, like different activities, so you see me like sundo, like busy, go figure. Kasi diba, like you work, from the morning, and then sundo ka from school, and after school you have to, make sure kung may assignment or whatever, go to classes, kung may jiu-jitsu, may tutor, whatever, right? So there's always like activities going on.
So it's those. But what do you do for yourself? Do you have time to do things for you? Nagde-date pa ba kayo ng asawa mo? Na kayo lang dalawa?
I mean, most of the time it's a family.
As a family,
yeah,
no?
As a family,
Oo nga.
right?
Yun nga na-realize ko dito sa Canada. Kasi mostly in the Philippines, I moved here lang kasi recently pa lang eh. Yeah. So, fresh na fresh pa ang Philippine experience ko. There's really a lot more time for example, for you and your husband, because you can leave the kids either with a helper, mas yun ang lifestyle natin doon, may helper sa bahay, diba? Or may dito wala. Or malapit ang kamag-anak na doon lagi. So it's really very It's more challenging here
Yeah.
talaga to have your own. But then there are many other fulfilling things kasi na nagbabalance eh.
Yes.
Like ikaw, adult ka na rin when you left the Philippines. What are the pros and cons? May namimiss ka ba doon? Would you want to live there again? Or dito sa Canada parang, ano yung maganda dito sa Canada? Ano yung namimiss mo sa Pilipinas?
Philippines kasi, like, it's more of like, like I feel like you have more time. I don't know why.
Mm.
Right? Like you always have something like, you can go out, hang out with friends and everything, right? So I guess when I was like, I guess depende siguro kung saan ka nagtatrabaho or what kind of work do you do, right? But then, like, I feel like, again, you saying like, you have more resources because, like, there's always help, there's always like kamag-anak and stuff. But here, I find like, you always have to do everything, right? But in a way, if I still love it here. I wouldn't be here, It's something like, like in the Philippines kasi,
You wouldn't trade Canada
yeah, I
pa
guess
rin.
it's
You'd
about
still want to be here.
experience, it's about experience, the things that I've learned, the people I've met, So yeah, and then and of course, like it's about the opportunity too. Like, in the Philippines kasi like, like, oh, kailangan ka anak ka ng ganito or whatever. Like, like there's always that branding, there's always that,
It's
like,
who you know.
it's who you know. And then what if di mo kilala? But then here, I feel like every time I do something, I have a fair playing field, like as long as I do my job properly, like I can, like for example, like, getting a job or a contract or something, as long as I do my job or I do like, execute whatever like I promised to do, I'm fine, like I'm good. And then, like that would give me an edge,
Right. Especially nga in your perspective as an entrepreneur.
Right.
Hindi pareho ang playing field niyan pagdating mo sa Pilipinas.
Sa
That's
Pilipinas,
true.
kailangan there's always bribery.
Kung sino.
Right?
Yun. Ang hirap magnegosyo,
I know,
diba?
oo,
Tapos,
there's always something,
and then there's that insecurity na kahit kailan pwede tanggalin yung kontrata mo kung merong kakilala na papasok, merong i-favor na
Right?
iba.
I know.
That's true.
Here, not as much, but then, I feel like it's more of like an equal, playing field rather than, in there, kung sino mas malakas ang lagayan, like, right? Like, I
May
don't know.
bidding.
Like, by bidding, oo, diba? Like, so,
Okay.
right? So that's how I feel, So in here,
Mhm.
like, okay, if ever like at this one in here, like next, there's always, like there's always things, there's always things that come out, as long as you do your job, I'm good.
So ano naman, Tita Flips, yung mga ano mo? Mga guilty pleasures.
Guilty pleasures.
Yung mga...
I eat, I dine to like different things,
When you eat, kasi magaling ka magluto, how is it? Ano mga hinahanap mong cuisine? Ganyan. Gusto
always
mo,
something different.
do you like eating your own dish?
I do, of course. I have to. I love it. But then, when I eat outside, it's something like interesting, something different, right? Different
Yung
cuisine.
iba sa niluluto mo?
Yes.
O, kasi minsan isip, baka gusto mo i-compare, magaling ako magluto ng dinuguan. At tingnan ko nga yung dinuguan sa iba. Kung anong
Not
lasa.
so much. Yeah,
Oo.
not
so
so much.
inaano mo na yung iba.
Yeah.
What are your favorite cuisines?
Good question.
O ano yung parang lagi mong kinikrave? Mas madalas mong...
I like, paano ba? Mostly, like a lot of French, Italian. I don't know. Wala naman akong favorite na iba. I mean, of course, Filipino food is my favorite, right? But then I always, go to different, sometimes, like, Vietnamese, Japanese, or something. Comfort food is always Chinese, like mga, or the ramen, right?
Pero grabe talaga ang passion ni Tita Flips sa Filipino food.
Of course.
Pag oo. Kasi she has a show here in Filipino TV. 'Di ba? So, nakikita niyo ako doon, taga-tikim ako doon. Pero talagang when she talks about Filipino food, ayan, makikita mo mga twinkle ng eyes ni Tita Flips. So,
diba?
talagang,
I breathe Filipino food.
Oo,
right?
and your passion in wanting to share it with the other culture.
Yes.
Diba? Yung
I
parang
think,
paano mo explain sa kanila, kung ano to. And you always say, parang you want, I always hear from you the word unapologetic.
Unapologetic.
No, diba? You want the
Yes.
Filipino dishes to be unapologetic.
Yes, I know. Like, like dinuguan, balut, or anything, right? It's something like people would say like, oh, it's too greasy or oily or something like
Oo.
off cuts, like it's not like the prime cut, like, like not a steak or something, right?
Oo.
But something like, mga tira-tira, head, nose,
Oo.
tail, right? So kind of like, I don't know, for some people it's something like you're putting down, and I don't like it. No, I mean, of course you're entitled to your opinion, right? But
Oo.
you don't judge before tasting what the food is all about, right? And
Even
it's
what's the story behind
exactly,
it?
there's
Diba?
always a story. There's always,
Oo.
especially the regional dishes, and that's why I'm more into the regional dishes. Like
Oo.
not just like the like the traditional adobo, kare-kare, or something like, but into the way of like, like the right now my obsession is the palapa of the Maranao.
What is a palapa?
It's a condiment. Yung sausawan ng mga yun na Muslim, yung sa Maranao. Oh my God, I have to send my sister to Lanao
Okay.
to get me like,
Talaga?
ano yun, sino yung pinaka-traditional? Mag-order ka, mag-research ka, I don't care, bring me some.
Pinadala mo dito?
Nagdala siya.
What's it made of?
It's made of, yung para siyang anong tawag dito? Onions.
Green onions.
Ang tawag nila doon sibujing, or yung sibujing on the Bisaya, and then ano ba yun? Sakurab. There you go. Sakurab is a family of onion. Imagine it's leeks, right? Imagine yung anong tawag dito, yung scallions, but then they're bigger into like yung puti, yung sa dulo. Mas mataba siya, mas bulky. But then it has like a different, like it's a very, mas intense yung kanyang onion
mas
flavor.
intense pa.
And a garlic and some kind of sweet. So, palapa is a condiment that Maranao use, or like yung mga Muslim. They always have that as a condiment in anything that they eat.
Oo
So,
nga
parang sausawan
siya
nila.
Anong
Sausawan
hinahalo doon
siya.
kahit ano?
So mga chilies, meron siyang mga ginger.
Anong
and then,
pinapartner sa isda? Sa seafood?
isda,
sa kahit
anything. Para siyang sausawan na parang toyo, kalamansi, toyo, patis.
The amazing thing kasi rin with Filipino cuisine is how varied it is.
Yes.
It's even more varied than, I would dare say, than how many dialects we have. Kasi minsan, isang region, isang dialect, pero yung version nila ng mga dishes,
Oo, iba-iba din.
nagkakaiba. So parang, if you're a real foodie in the Philippines, dun pa lang, ang dami
I
mo
know,
ng...
right?
Kasi kahit tayo taga doon, hindi ko yan. Like, I've never heard of palapa. And then when I became an assistant secretary for the Department of Transportation, so one of the things that we had to do was go to the provinces.
Yes.
And I realized how much food, one of the things I realized among the menu is yung dami kong hindi alam na pagkain.
Hindi alam na pagkain.
Tapos meron silang iba-ibang practices, like merong isa sa may Kabanatuan ata.
Yeah, Kabanatuan.
I forget. In the northern region, northern Luzon, yung may seafood na, may shellfish na certain time of the year lang when the waves hit the boulders in that particular direction, nagsistick siya doon.
Ano tawag doon?
Para I have to remember that. I will get back to you.
Diba?
Oo, pero doon nila hina-harvest yun, yung mga bata, yung mga hina-harvest nila kasi at that time of the year, doon nga the waves fall in a certain way that it hits the stones, and then you take out those shellfish, and then yun na yung ginagawa nilang dish na.
Oo, kasi
sarap.
even like the Philippines,
iba-iba.
right? I wish I had more like time, like
to go around,
or like if I wish I had known it before. Like, kasi di ba tayo, ano lang, Manila, especially pang Manila, di ba marami. You think na yun na, di ba? But
akala
then,
ko yun na.
there's so much more outside, right? And there's so much different flavors. Like this is what I'm saying. Like, yung ngayon, yung April, kasi I think the Philippine Consulate is doing the Filipino Restaurant Month for the whole month of April. So I'm doing like entirely different dish, like something like everything is like inspired by the South, like yung mga chicken pianggang. Alam mo yung maitim na chicken sinunog. Yeah,
native na chicken.
Yeah, they
Oo.
burn you burn like yung coconut, kaya yung sinunog mo yung buo, yung coconut, so, kaya pag naglagay ka ng alam mo yung gata niya, so it's like smoky.
May smoky flavor yung gata.
So it's like something different. So yeah, like so the next time I'm going
so
somewhere.
nire-research mo yung mga yan,
Yes.
yung mga kailangan mong gawin.
So,
kasi catering is a big part of your business.
Yes.
And usually, they're not Pinoys.
No, they're
Those
not
who are
Pinoys,
eating the
right?
food, right?
So they're not Pinoy, and then
So you are our ambassador for food here in Toronto.
Yes,
Oo.
so I always strive to bring out what the flavors, and then we can't just like gauge it on a mere adobo or caldereta.
Right,
I
right.
feel like okay,
Oo.
gamit na gamit. Alam mo,
Oo.
everybody's eating that. So
Right.
and what else? Like there's so much things that Filipino cuisine has to offer. Like there's so much
Right.
flavors, And because they always say like, oh, parang walang flavor, it's bland or something. Like, di ba? Like some people would say like, oh, ano ba, toyo lang, it's only
Laging maalat.
maalat or matamis, right?
Mm-mm.
So no, but there's so much flavor. Go to the south, you'll taste like different flavors, like the chilies. It's like similar to the Vietnamese and the Thai. If you were to compete, it's the same, like not same flavor profile, but then something with like like
Yeah.
like okay, there's flavor, something like where is this, like you haven't tasted that kind of combination, like
While we're talking about this, the thought process in my head is, as a journalist, when I went around the Philippines, I realized, kasi very Manila-centric din ang
Yes.
news of the big news organization. So, ano nangyayari sa Congress, ano nangyayari sa Malacanang, ano nangyayari sa Senado, which are all in
yes,
Metro Manila, which is, all in that government district. But, and all, doon nakakoncentrate maybe 95% of
Yes,
all the reporters, right? I mean, in mainstream news. We have regional offices, pero nung umikot ako, parang, andito ang storya. Ito yung
Yes.
Pilipinas. Hindi
Yes.
lang yun, di ba?
Yes,
Hindi
it's
lang yun.
true.
It's really when you go to Mindanao, when you go to those little places. Unfortunately, those don't happen often na umiikot yung Metro Manila reporters
Yes.
around. And I'm just thinking of that because there's a lot of flavors, there's a lot of
Yes,
cuisines, there's a lot of
Yes.
dishes out there in different areas of the Philippines that we
Yes.
haven't discovered, in the same way as the stories of the Filipinos are really in those areas
Yes.
as well,
Yeah.
that we a lot of the Filipinos don't know.
Yes.
Even
yes.
tayo, di ba?
Yeah,
Na hindi
oo.
natin alam. Kaya nandun ang storya, nandun ang flavor. It's a microcosm. Our food is reflective of our culture, definitely,
It's
di ba?
true.
Lalo na tayong mga Pinoy, napakahilig talaga natin kumain. Everything is about
Yeah.
eating. Kaya, you know how family relations get a bit sticky, marami ng mga, minsan may intriga within the family, si tita ganito, yung anak ni ganito, kinukumpara sa anak ni ganito, yung mga magkaka-generation.
Yeah.
Minsan may mga ganun na parang, but when you're all there eating in the
Yes.
dining table, whether you have differences or whatever, it's really
always,
it's what brings you together.
food always, bring
Diba?
together.
Kaya
right?
yung mga culture na mahilig kumain as a family, yun yung medyo talagang may tight bond familially. Like the Italians,
right? Italians,
diba? Mahilig kumain with the family. And yun pa ba, the Mexicans, I think they do that too. The Indians, diba?
Indians,
yung mga Vietnamese and all that, no?
Kaya they're always like, it always revolve around food,
Mhm.
right? So there's
Mhm.
always something like, parang relatable.
Oo.
That's the word, right?
Oo.
So
Right.
So there's always like, always a memory, always, like meron siyang kadugtong linked with something, like with food and stuff, right?
Mhm.
That's why I always say, like, even in my events or something, like, I always like want to say, like bring out those memories, right? Or if you have an experience, for some people like who grew up here, and then, like we're talking about it, what is the Filipino culture? So we make those memories, So I kind of like, even like my Sunday Fiesta brunch is like recreating those memories, right?
Mm.
So, and I guess, like it's the culture that still lives on. And I guess my like vehicle is just like through food, right? So,
Mm.
yeah.
your storytelling is through food.
Yes,
No?
through food,
Nandun
right?
nakalabas yung passion mo. And you'll know that when you eat Tita Flips food, malalaman mo ba if it's cooked with love? Diba
Yes.
sabi nila,
Oo.
nalalasahan.
Oo.
Ano yung ano dun?
I don't
What's
know.
what's
Like,
the
when you
magic behind that?
I guess,
Oo.
like, it's about the care and, lang detail when you put into it, tipong,
Paano si Gordon Ramsay laging galit sa kitchen? Malalasahan mo ba yung pag laging galit ang...
I guess it's a different passion.
Oh, that's true. There is passion there.
Right? It's really
That's why he's
passion.
always mad. It's because he's
so
passionate
it's how
about...
it expressed,
That's
right?
true. That's true.
But I guess there's like always, like simple things, like simple things. Like, for example, like I'll give you an example with my mom, right? Yung pag nagpapakulo ng sinigang, alam mo yan, she always takes time to like gather, the scum, like,
Oh, yeah. Yung kumukulo
some
sa
people
taas. Wouldn't bother.
yeah, exactly. Wouldn't bother. Like, what's that? Like, it's gonna coagulate. Some people would say, like, it's gonna coagulate. Like, yeah, coagulate nga, dugo nga naman, diba? Yeah. But it's something like different, right? When you taste it, like, you see the difference, right? So that's why.
A lot of one main thing that I'm a big believer of is energy.
Yes.
And I think energy is very underestimated.
Yes.
Underscored.
It travels.
Yeah,
right?
you feel that. That's why,
You vibe.
diba?
Yes.
Minsan parang hindi mo naman alam pero gusto mong kasama tong tao na to. Minsan
Right.
wala namang ginagawa sa'yo pero ayaw mong kasama.
Oo, diba?
Diba?
Oo,
It's,
tipong-
there's that, and if I think if we only believe in energy and put enough
It's true.
emphasis or
Yeah.
weight on it as it deserves,
Yes.
then we might be a better world. I really believe that.
Yes,
Kasi
yes.
you know that you affect people just by your mood.
Yes.
I had a friend before who told me na parang, ang sabi niya sa anak niya, turo niya sa anak niya, it's selfish to be cranky or something like that. It's selfish. When you're masungit,
Yes.
you're actually being very self-centered. Parang you're
Yes.
not thinking of the
Yeah.
people around you.
Yes. Yes.
Kasi that negativity travels.
I
diba?
know, right?
So parang, not that we're not allowed
yeah, of course, you're
our
human.
moments
Oo,
of
diba?
diba? You can do that. Pero just knowing na your energy affects people. Kaya nga sabi nila, konting smile naman dyan.
Oo,
Konting
diba?
nakaka-apekto yan.
Oo,
Di
diba?
ba? So I have one question. What don't a lot of people know about Tita Flips? Ano yung mga hindi, kahit siguro closest friends mo, hindi alam na ganito ka? Is there anything?
It's more 80% of the time I'm like an open book. It is what it is.
I love that about you actually.
Right?
Before Tita Flip sat here, I asked her, and I always ask my guests, is there any territory, is there any topic that I can't get into?
Yes.
Okay lang naman yun
Yeah.
May
Yeah,
boundaries. Yung iba, wala. Tita Flips, wala.
Anything, because
Anything.
if I do it, I do it. If I don't, I don't, right? So, so I guess if we're talking about, that's what I'm saying, like, my kids always ask me this. Oh, Tita, that's why they always say Tita Flips and then their mom, right? Because their mom, Diona Joyce, is mostly like, just a mom. A simple, like, if I were, like, as me, as a person, I wouldn't have probably Facebook or nagbabrowse lang ako. Like, alam mo yun, like, I'm not that social, right? If I don't have Tita Flips, you're not gonna see me. Like if you search on like my personal profile, probably like 2 years I haven't logged in. It's just like the fact that I just need to have it, like, but it's something like,
so you're a private person.
In a way.
Private or more like what you said, simple, with
just simple, like,
wants and needs.
and it's mostly like, I guess my priorities are like my kids, family, and just that, it takes up a whole lot of your time. Like, it's a 24/7, right? Just being with the kids, like it's just like, that's it. Tapos ni araw mo, right? If not for Tita Flips, I wouldn't be like, you're not gonna see me. You'll see me there, as a mother.
As a doting mother. What are your dreams for them? Ano yung sabi mo na parang, I've done my job as a mother?
Oh my God. As long as they lumaki lang sila na not going to jail. And not being hoarse. Wag ka na magpokpok at saka wag ka na I'm good, like,
I love the bar here.
you know what I mean? Like, again, it's their life.
No,
but
this is beautiful because when children are being given so much expectations, it really messes them up.
Yeah, wag ka
And
na
I
maging
love-
pokpok. Wag ka na mabilanggo. And that's it. I'm happy, I think, So, but yeah, like whatever they want to do, I'm always like, like I'm going to support them, whatever. Like, like, and my daughter the other day asked me, Mommy, do you think lawyer makes a lot of money? Sure. Do you want to be by all means? So I don't know. Like she's in that stage, like, who makes a lot of money? I don't know. Like, it's just
love
being
that
kids,
about
right?
You. Yeah,
And
yeah.
so-
It's the whole gamut of possibilities.
Exactly. You can do
diba?
whatever. I always tell them, you can do whatever you want. Like-
So no pressures. Are you a strict mom? Who's stricter, you or
My husband is more strict,
okay.
So I'm
what's
more,
his name again?
Trevor.
Trevor.
Yeah.
So Trevor is stricter.
In a
than
way,
you are.
yes. There has to be
Mhm.
like, we play the bad cop, good cop.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you're the cool mom. They go to you.
Yes,
When
in a
ano.
way, so the treats and, I guess, it's most of the time too, like it's always like, my husband say like, oh, because you're not there all the time, right? Because especially in the last 2 years, so I'm always like spending, like long hours working and stuff like that. So yeah. But as much as possible, like, that's why like every single thing na pag wala ako sa, sa kusina, I'm with my kids. That's all,
So siya yung mas may time, mas
Yes,
maraming
yes,
time for
yes,
them.
yes.
Oo nga naman kasi yung trabaho mo sa kusina
Yeah.
and the catering,
Yeah.
But in your job, in your work, in your business, you interact a lot. You have a lot of relationship with the Filipino community.
Yes.
No. So what are your insights about the Filipino communities here in Canada, and what can we do better?
It's good because it's still like bringing on tradition and, like initiating, like activities, anything like gathering and stuff like that. Like, for example, like there's like different organizations, right? So I commend them for like, doing that, bringing them, even if it's not the Philippines, so at least, your tradition still lives on. However, there's like other things, like for example, like I just can't relate, yung mga food festivals, like used to be one, tapos naging dalawa, kasi nag-away sila, and then tatlo, anapat, and there's just so
Yung
many,
mga unfortunate things minsan
Exactly,
sa mga Pinoy,
right?
diba?
I
I guess
guess-
in every culture, but we have our own flavor.
Yes.
We have our own flavor of what do you call that? Of politics, no?
We have
What,
politics, chismis,
yeah, the issues,
the
no?
issues, right?
Minsan
And
yung mga
of
chismis
course-
natin nagiging toxic.
Yes, and also like I just wish na, like for example, I can only speak on the food industry, right? Like for example, like like Google reviews. I'm just gonna give you an example. Most of the people, if you look into our reviews, it's the Filipinos who give you 1 star because hindi sila
Ay?
contento.
Oo.
But most of the non-Filipinos give you like the goods, like the 5
Rating,
stars and the
oo.
4 stars, right? But I'm saying like, like if you have nothing good to say, I always believe that. Nothing good to say, don't say anything, right?
Exactly.
Huwag ka na magsalita.
At
Tapos
saka-
maninira ka pa. Tapos kapwa Pilipino mo, sisiraan mo
Oo
and
nga,
everything, right?
oo nga.
Yeah, sometimes, like maybe, you're not happy, right? Like reach out to them,
Right.
go talk to us,
Oo.
whatever. Like we're not perfect, I'm just saying.
Oo.
Or maybe we're having a bad day or something, right? Talk to
Minsan
us.
mas may motivation, mas may enthusiasm, mas may energy pa tayong magbaba nung
Yes.
kapwa Pilipino natin. Do you have that same energy for those who are not Filipinos, for example?
No.
Will you, because it takes time, to review
Yeah. Yes.
and to actually put,
Tingnan mo, nobela pa. Kung
Diba?
magsulat, nobela, ang dami
Oo,
nilang time.
oras.
Ang daming time.
Diba?
Te,
Oo.
may galit ka talaga sa akin. Right?
It's kind of, yeah.
Oo,
What's your principle in dealing with that? When you see bad reviews, how do you take that?
Sometimes they're like, like, okay, fine, we made a mistake. And I always like, I reach out to them, right? So when we mistake, we're sorry and stuff, right? But I just wish, like sometimes, like Japanese restaurant where you always like, why they're in the mainstream. Because
Ah.
most probably, lahat ng Japanese, lahat ng mga Hapon nagbibigyan ng 5-star.
Oh, ganun ba?
Oh
Sila
yes,
mismo
they
ang
always
ano?
bring out to their, like they always give something.
Oh.
So, and then, samantalang Filipino, like, hello, like, if you have nothing, that's what I'm saying, like, kung
Oo nga.
hindi ka,
Oo,
paano mo mag-review? Di ba?
Oo.
Di ba? Kausapin mo na.
lang. Kasi iba yung epekto nun eh.
Oo,
Iba yung
right?
epekto sa
So-
community. Unless gusto mo talagang sirain.
Exactly. That's the whole point.
Oo.
And like, something beyond that. Like that one, I can't control, right?
Oo.
But I'm saying, as a culture, as a community, like we should be working towards, like
Uplifting
with
each other.
Exactly, right?
Oo.
Rather than bringing somebody down.
True,
so-
true. Unfortunately, may ganon. Hopefully we get to, partly that's also what Filipino TV wants to do.
Yes.
Because we want to uplift every Filipino, and we believe every Filipino is a creator. We want to encourage them to do, like, for example, at least you, Tita Flips, you found your passion in cooking
Yes.
and, spreading this, and you're already on that level where you have found what
Yes,
your
yes.
calling is,
Yes,
and
yes.
ganyan. And we want to encourage people to keep creating and keep going into their passion, because that's the way for you to get away from obstacles to, para malampasan yung
Yes,
mga obstacles.
yes,
At saka, pag masaya ang tao, less nega, di ba?
Yes.
Kasi
negative.
maligaya ka. Misery loves company.
I know. Good vibes lang naman sana.
Oh, GB
diba?
daw tayo. Good
Diba?
vibes. Okay. And that concludes another episode of the Cherie Mercado podcast, where we try to get to know the Filipino-Canadian community dito sa Canada. Thank you so much, Tita Flips.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, that was amazing. It's nice to know all these things about you. And we'll still get to know more. And we keep getting to know Tita Flips through her cooking
Yes.
sa kanyang show dito sa Filipino TV na
Lutong Pinoy eh.
yan. So, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again for the next episode of the Cherie Mercado